Good morning students, this is biology for 12th class, chapter 11 biotechnology principles and processes, and this is lecture number 4 of this chapter. So in previous lecture we were discussing about features of cloning vectors and we discussed about insertional inactivation in that. So to continue that, we will discuss one other method of insertional inactivation here, insertional inactivation of beta galactosidase. After that, vectors for cloning genes in plants and animals. Next topic that we will discuss is competent host, and after that isolation of genetic material. So these topics we are going to discuss today. So let's start with insertional inactivation. In this, a recombinant DNA is inserted into the coding sequence means gene, of an enzyme beta galactosidase. So here the gene which is responsible for coding enzyme beta galactosidase, in that gene recombinant DNA is inserted. Okay, the foreign piece of DNA is inserted there. So the gene is inactivated, right? If we are inserting our foreign piece of DNA in that gene, then what will happen? Then that gene will become inactivate, and that process is called insertional inactivation. Such colonies do not produce color. Now what happened? This beta galactosidase enzyme. This enzyme in a bacteria is responsible for metabolism of lactose, okay, breakdown of lactose, and by breakdown of lactose it produces blue color, right? But what is happening now? Due to insertion of foreign piece of DNA, it has become this gene has become inactivate, and due to which this enzyme is not formed there, okay, and that's why these bacterial colonies means in which this beta galactosidase enzyme is not forming due to insertional inactivation, these colonies will not produce blue color. These are identified as recombinant colonies. So we can identify these colonies, these colorless colonies, as recombinant colonies. If the plasmid in bacteria have an insert, it gives blue colored colonies in the presence of chromogenic substrate. Chromogenic substrate is lactose here, okay. Now, due to breakdown of lactose, enzyme is producing blue color. That's why that is called chromogenic substrate. Here you can see this is plasmid vector and this is foreign DNA that we need to insert here in this plasmid vector, okay. So here you can see these two types of you can say plasmids will be formed here. Insert with LecZ, insert within LecZ. Here you can see this portion, this blue colored portion, this is LecZ gene, which is coding for enzyme beta galactosidase, okay. This is the gene responsible for making the enzyme beta galactosidase. Now you can see here within this portion, this blue red color the segment has been inserted, means this foreign piece of DNA has been inserted here, but here you can see there is no insert in this blue colored portion, right? Now what happened if this recombinant plasmid, so we can say this is recombinant plasmid and this is non-recombinant plasmid, right? Now when this recombinant plasmid is transformed into a cell, then what will happen? You can see here, because this gene has become inactivated due to insertion of foreign piece of DNA. That's why enzyme beta galactosidase will not be formed here, and there will be no breakdown of lactose and no color production. That's why white colonies we will get, white colonies of bacteria, right? And in second case, you can see here where non-recombinant plasmid is present here, which has been transformed into cell, into bacterial cell. But this gene is activated here because it is not due to any insertion, it has not been inactivated, right? That's why enzyme beta galactosidase will be formed here, and that will break down the lactose and blue color will be produced. That's why blue colored colonies you will get. Next topic is vectors for cloning genes in plants and animals. So genetic tools of some pathogens is transformed into useful vector for delivering genes to plants and animals. Okay, so here pathogens, genes of pathogens are used for transforming the foreign genetic material into plants and animals, right? Means those those pathogens genetic material can be used as vector. For example, Agrobacterium tumefacium. Agrobacterium tumefacium is a bacteria and that is a pathogen of many dicot plants. It causes cancer in many dicot plants. Okay, it is tumor causing bacteria. And also another example is of retroviruses. So Agrobacterium tumefaciens and these retroviruses, these can be used as vector for transforming genetic material into plants and animals. Let's see how Agrobacterium tumefaciens works. So this bacterium can deliver a piece of DNA, that DNA is called tDNA, to transform normal plant cells into tumor. These tumor cells produce the chemicals required by the pathogen. So this is the pathogenic property of this Agrobacterium tumefaciens. How it cause cancer in dicot plants? Because it has tDNA, that is T is for tumor. Okay, it has tumor DNA which can transform the normal plant cells into tumor cells. And when these tumor cells are formed in any plant, these tumor cells produce the chemicals also that are required by the pathogen. That's why it keep on, you can say it keep on increasing its population, right? Now, how we can use it as a vector? The tumor inducing plasmid of this bacterium. Okay, in this bacterium, a plasmid is present which is called Ti plasmid, and that plasmid here, this Ti is for tumor inducing. Okay, so the plasmid of this bacterium is called tumor inducing plasmid because within this plasmid this tDNA is present. That's why you can say the property of the tumor causing property of this bacterium is present within its plasmid, right? Now what happened here, this Ti plasmid of this bacterium is modified into a cloning vector which is not pathogenic but can use the mechanism to deliver genes of interest into plant. And how it is done? From that Ti plasmid there is a particular part, that is tDNA, okay, that is removed with the help of restriction enzyme, that is cut it from there and that is removed from that plasmid. And then again it is ligated. Our you can say our the gene of interest can be ligated there in place of that tDNA in this Ti plasmid. Okay, and in this way this Ti plasmid can be used as a vector after removal of this tDNA. Next is about retroviruses, how these can be used as cloning vectors. So retroviruses in animals can transform normal cells into cancerous cells. About this you have studied in chapter Human Health and Disease in cancer topic, that proto-oncogenes are present in normal human cells, right? And due to infection of retrovirus, these proto-oncogenes can be converted into oncogenes, right? And these oncogenes are responsible for causing cancer. Thus, the cell will be converted into cancerous cell. So these retroviruses can also be used as cloning vector to deliver the desirable genes. In place of that genome of retrovirus, desirable gene can be inserted and it can be transferred to a host animal. Next topic is competent host. Means a host cell that is ready for uptake of recombinant DNA or for the transformation with recombinant DNA. Since DNA is a hydrophilic molecule, DNA is hydrophilic because phosphate is present in DNA and that is having one negative charge. That makes it hydrophilic, water loving in nature. It cannot pass through cell membrane. Cell membrane nature is hydrophobic. That's why DNA cannot pass through cell membrane. So the bacterial cells must be made competent to take up alien DNA or plasmid, right? Because directly DNA cannot pass through plasma membrane of any cell. That's why these bacterial cells must be made, must be treated with some chemicals or any other treatment is given here to make these cells competent so that these cells can take up alien DNA, or you can say recombinant DNA, that is plasmid having alien DNA, right? For this, bacterial cells are treated with a specific concentration of divalent cation, that is calcium. So first of all, what is done here? Competent cell. This is a host cell in which we want to transform our recombinant DNA, right? So first of all, it is treated with calcium, CaCl2 here. That is a divalent ion having calcium, okay? So it is treated with CaCl2 first. So DNA enters the bacterium through pores in cell walls. Now what will happen? After this treatment with CaCl2, this competent cell is also given heat shock treatment. Heat shock treatment at 42 degrees Celsius for 2 minutes. Okay, and after this heat shock treatment and with this CaCl2 treatment, pores will be created in cell and DNA will be able to enter through those pores in cell wall. These are some other methods to introduce alien DNA into host cell. First is microinjection, in which this type of injection is used to transfer recombinant DNA directly into the nucleus of host cell. So this is host cell, this is nucleus of host cell, and this is cytoplasm. This is a holding pipette to hold this cell, to hold this host cell, and this microinjection is used here having a recombinant DNA in it, and with the help of it, recombinant DNA is directly injected into the nucleus of this host cell. Next method which can be used here is biolistic or gene gun method. This is gene gun, and why this is we are calling it gene gun, because it helps in bombarding the gene, the recombinant DNA. Recombinant DNA is a gene in itself, okay? So because it helps in bombardment of that DNA, that's why we are calling it gene gun. So how it works? Here microparticles, means small particles of gold or tungsten which are coated with DNA are bombarded on plant cells, because this method is used usually for plant cells. So here DNA coated above the gold or tungsten microparticles is bombarded with the help of this gun. Next method which can be used is disarmed pathogen vectors, and these disarmed pathogen means here the gene in the pathogen which is responsible for causing any disease, that is removed first, okay, and that pathogen is called disarmed pathogen. The pathogen in which disease causing gene has been removed is called disarmed pathogen. And these disarmed pathogens, when normally these will infect any host, these will transfer the DNA, okay. So these can be used as vectors. Next topic is processes of recombinant DNA technology. First we have done tools of recombinant DNA technology. Now we will do about the processes of recombinant DNA technology. So first of all, we need to isolate the genetic material. Okay, so DNA isolation is the first process that comes under this technology. After isolation of the DNA, we need to cut the DNA at specific locations, because we need only the desired segment of the DNA, okay, not whole genome of any organism. So we need to cut that DNA at specific locations, and you know about the tool here which is used, that is restriction enzyme. Okay, so second process you can say is cutting of DNA at specific locations. After that we need to amplify that, because if we have isolated that DNA and we have separated that desired segment also of that DNA with cutting, after that we need to amplify that desired gene, okay, by using some technique. So third process is amplification of gene of interest using PCR. PCR is polymerase chain reaction. After that, insertion of recombinant DNA into host cell. That recombinant DNA after amplification, we need to transfer that into host cell so that it can be expressed in host cell. So obtaining the foreign gene product after expression in host cell, the next process will be obtaining the foreign gene product from host cell, right? And then we use downstream processing. So let's start with the first process, that is isolation of genetic material or DNA, you can say. So for isolation of genetic material, we treat bacterial cells, plant cells or animal tissue, like we have different type of cells from which we need to isolate the DNA, right? So here the bacterial cells can be there, plant cells can be there, or animal cells can be there, and these cells are treated with different enzymes. For example, bacterial cells are treated with lysozyme, plant cells are treated with cellulase, and fungal cells are treated with chitinase to dissolve their cell wall. Okay, so for the breaking of their cell wall, these different enzymes work here, because the composition of cell wall of bacteria, plant and fungal cell wall is different. Okay, that's why different types of enzymes are used here to break the cell wall. Now the cell is broken, releasing DNA and other macromolecules. After treating with these enzymes, cell is broken, and inside that cell, all the macromolecules are present, like DNA, RNA, proteins, polysaccharides and lipids. All these macromolecules are present inside a cell, right? Out of all these, we need only DNA, right? Now what will we do to isolate the DNA? First of all these other biomacromolecules, means other than DNA, these are removed from that. So like RNA is removed by treating with ribonuclease. Ribonuclease is the enzyme responsible for the degradation of RNA, right? Proteins can be removed by treating with protease enzymes, which can degrade proteins. And other molecules are removed by appropriate treatments, like different enzymes are there for breakdown of different biomacromolecules. Okay, lipases will be there for the breakdown of lipids. So all the biomacromolecules will be removed by treating with these enzymes, and finally we will have only DNA in that mixture. Okay, when chilled ethanol, means after treatment with these enzymes, we add chilled ethanol, and after adding it, purified DNA precipitates, as you can see here in this tube. We have that extract from the cell, okay, in which we have done all the treatment for removing all the other biomacromolecules, and finally we have added chilled ethanol in it. After adding chilled ethanol, this precipitate of DNA starts forming, okay, and purified DNA precipitates out as a fine threads in suspension. Okay, so threads like this will be formed here, and separated DNA can be removed by spooling. Now because DNA fine threads have been formed here in suspension, which can be removed by spooling. with the help of this rod like structure. When we dip this rod in this tube, then DNA comes out like this, okay, and this is called spooling, that with the help of a rod we are removing the DNA from this suspension. This method is called spooling. Based on today's topics, your homework is NCERT question number 2 and 9. Now let's discuss the homework solution of previous lecture, and this is NCERT question that what you have learned, can you tell whether enzymes are bigger or DNA is bigger in molecular size? How did you know? So compared to DNA molecules, enzymes are smaller in size. We can say this as DNA comprises of genetic material, right? And this genetic material is essential for the normal development and functioning of living entities. A DNA molecule consists of instructions required for the synthesis of DNA molecules and proteins, whereas enzymes are the proteins that are synthesized from genes. Like you can say the DNA which is present in our cells, that is responsible for formation of many proteins. Okay, many proteins are synthesized from one DNA molecule, right? So proteins are smaller in size. Proteins, or you can say enzymes are proteins. Okay, so those are smaller in size. That's why enzymes are proteins that are synthesized from genes, means DNA. Okay, a smaller fragment of DNA, you can say. These are crucial in the production of polypeptide chain. So we can say enzymes are made up of only a small part of DNA, okay, because a small part of DNA, or you can say a gene, is coding for any protein or any enzyme, right? That's why it is smaller in size than DNA.